My dear soul, tonight is not an ordinary night. Tonight is the night where heaven leans closer than it ever has before, where the divine places a gentle hand upon your trembling spirit and whispers, I see you. I know you. I have not forgotten you. You have carried so much within the quiet corners of your heart, the sorrow you never speak of, the worries that keep circling your mind, the ache that has lived beneath your ribs for far too long. And whilst you have tried to be strong, whilst you have tried to keep going with fortitude, tonight God offers you something far deeper than strength. He offers you solace. For He knows how weary you have become. He knows the heaviness that settles upon your chest the moment the world grows still. He knows the nights you have laid awake, staring into the darkness, praying for a sanctuary where your mind can rest and your heart can breathe. And tonight, that sanctuary is here. Not outside you, not somewhere distant, but unfolding gently within your inner stillness, that sacred space He created inside you before the world ever knew your name. You have been holding so much alone. The quiet tears. The silent fears. The unspoken disappointments. You've tried to convince yourself that you should be stronger by now, healed by now, restored by now. But hear this truth with tenderness, your pace has never disappointed God. Not once. Every shaky step has been seen. Every whispered prayer has been held. Every moment you felt overwhelmed, heaven wrapped its arms around you even when you felt nothing at all. And tonight, God says, stop crying, my child. The pain ends tonight. Not because you must instantly become whole, not because every wound must suddenly vanish, but because tonight marks the moment you no longer walk wounded and unseen. Tonight is the beginning of restoration. A gentle, divine unfolding where layer by layer, burden by burden, He lifts what has been crushing your spirit. You may not realize it yet, but something sacred is shifting within you. A softening. A loosening. A quiet release. The grip of old fears is weakening. The weight of past hurt is losing its claim over you. For the guardian that walks beside you is not distant, not silent, not passive, He is present. And He is here to restore you. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tightness in your chest ease. You're safe here. You're held here. Your heart has permission to rest in this divine embrace. You do not need to pretend to be strong. You do not need to explain your pain. You do not need to justify your tears. Tonight, your soul is allowed to simply be, and be loved. This is the first step of your healing journey, the step where heaven validates every ache you've carried. The step where God whispers, I am not angry with you. I am not disappointed in you. I am here to wipe your tears, to calm your storm, to bring serenity back into your weary spirit. And as this night unfolds, remember this, you are not broken, you are becoming. My dear heart, allow yourself to breathe a little deeper now. You've stepped into a sacred space, a space where your pain is not dismissed, where your exhaustion is not minimized, where every silent tear is finally honored. Tonight, God draws even nearer, and His voice carries a tenderness that wraps around your aching spirit like a warm covering after a long, cold evening. He knows how overwhelmed you have been. He knows how long you've been trying to hold everything together whilst quietly falling apart inside. And he says gently, "My child, it is time for your burdens to be recognized. You've been carrying responsibilities that were never meant to rest entirely on your shoulders. You've been trying to stay strong for others, trying to maintain composure, trying to smile even when the weight felt unbearable. You've hidden your trembling behind polite conversations, tucked your sorrow behind daily routines, and convinced yourself that no one would truly understand what you feel. But God has understood every moment. He has watched every part of your unfolding, even the chapters you tried to skip, even the pages stained with tears you hid from the world. There is no weakness in your weariness. There is no shame in your tiredness. Your soul has simply reached a point where it can no longer pretend. And heaven celebrates this honesty, for it is in this fragile truth that true healing can finally take root. God whispers, "You are weary, yes, but you are not lost. You are overwhelmed, yes, but you are not alone. I am your sanctuary, come and rest in me." Let that truth settle gently within you. Let it soften the edges of your pain. Let it remind you that you were never created to carry every hardship by yourself. The divine has been holding the pieces you feared would shatter completely. He has been guarding your heart in ways you may never fully understand. Even in the moments when your tears felt endless, He was there, catching every one with tenderness and fortitude. Tonight, as you listen, your soul begins to unclench. Slowly. Carefully. Naturally. You don't need to force peace, you only need to allow it. There is serenity moving toward you, subtle and soothing, like a calming breeze after a stormy night. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand. It simply arrives, reminding you that you are worthy of rest, worthy of compassion, worthy of healing. God says, "My child, I have watched you walk through seasons that would have broken others. Yet here you stand, fragile, yes, but courageous. Bruised, yes, but still unfolding. You have shown incredible fortitude, even on the days you felt weakest. And now it is my turn to carry you." Let those words embrace you. Let them dissolve the guilt you've carried for being tired. Let them restore a sense of inner stillness you haven't felt in a long while. Tonight, your story does not end with pain. Tonight, heaven acknowledges the full depth of what you've endured, and begins the gentle work of lifting the weight from your weary heart. My dear soul, as you step deeper into this sacred journey, allow yourself to recognize something profoundly important. Your silent battles have never been invisible to God. The world may have overlooked them, brushed past them, or assumed you were coping simply because you learned how to hide your trembling. But heaven has watched every moment. Heaven has witnessed the storms behind your calm expressions, the fears behind your quiet nods, the sorrow behind the smiles you gave so others wouldn't worry. Tonight, God whispers with a tenderness so real it reaches into the places you rarely touch. My child, I know the struggles you carry in silence. I see the pain you never speak of. And I am here, closer than your next breath. You have carried burdens beneath your skin for far too long. The kind of pain you learned to swallow because you didn't want to inconvenience anyone. The kind that sits heavy in your chest, returning every time the room grows quiet. The kind that has shaped your nights more than your days. But hear this truth: your pain deserves compassion. Not minimizing. Not dismissal. Not pretending. God acknowledges the depth of your fatigue. He sees how weary your soul has become from fighting battles no one else knows. He sees the moments you questioned your worth, the days you felt overlooked, the nights you felt forgotten. And he says gently, "My beloved, you are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not alone." Tonight marks the moment where the divine turns your hidden suffering into an unfolding restoration. You do not have to justify your tiredness. You do not have to explain why the pain has lingered. You do not have to hold yourself to impossible standards of strength. Heaven is not asking you to pretend, heaven is inviting you to exhale. Let your breath deepen. Let your mind loosen its grip. Let your heart ease its guard. For in this moment, God becomes your sanctuary, a place where your tears are not a sign of weakness but a sign of release. A place where your vulnerability is honored, not judged. A place where you are held with a tenderness that restores what life has drained from you. He says, "You have walked through shadows that others never saw. You have endured disappointments that cut deep. You have faced loneliness that echoed through your spirit. Yet still, you have risen each day. That is fortitude, my child. That is courage. And I honor you for it." Allow those words to wrap around you like a protective embrace. Feel the divine gently wiping the dust of fear from your spirit. Feel the serenity that begins to unfold within your inner stillness. This is not imagination, this is healing taking its first breath within you. What you have carried alone is now carried with you. What you hid from the world is no longer hidden from heaven. What weighed you down is now being lifted, piece by piece, by hands that hold infinite compassion. Tonight, God sees your silent battles, and He begins the gentle work of restoring your weary heart. My dear heart, as we continue on this gentle journey, allow yourself to hear a truth that has been waiting to reach you for a very long time: not everything that hurt you was your fault. You have carried blame like a shadow, convincing yourself that if you had done more, tried harder, been stronger, been quieter, been louder, perhaps the pain would not have unfolded the way it did. But tonight, God comes to soothe that wounded place within you. He comes to loosen the knots of guilt that have lived beneath your ribs. He whispers with a tenderness that calms the trembling inside you, "My child, you have carried responsibility for things that were never yours to carry. Release it now. Let me restore you. You have spent years internalizing moments that were simply too heavy for one soul. You've replayed old conversations, old mistakes, old fears, believing that somehow you should have known better. You should have anticipated the hurt. You should have prevented the loss. But listen closely, you did the best you could with the light you had at the time. And that is enough. Truly, beautifully, divinely enough. God does not look at you with disappointment. He does not criticize your past. He does not measure your worth by the wounds you endured. Instead, He sees your fortitude, the fortitude it took to wake up each morning whilst your heart felt shattered, the fortitude to love despite heartbreak, the fortitude to hope even when your hope grew thin. and He honors you for it. Tonight, heaven becomes a sanctuary where blame dissolves, where self-punishment loosens its grip, where you no longer define yourself by what went wrong. You are not the mistakes you made. You are not the decisions you regret. You are not the trauma you survived. You are a soul still unfolding, still healing, still learning, still blooming despite the storms that drenched you. God says gently, "You have been too hard on yourself, my beloved. Far too hard. Come into my embrace. Let me lift this burden from your weary spirit." Let those words sink into the places where your heart has felt the tightest. Allow them to bring serenity to the corners of your mind that have replayed old pain. Feel the tenderness of divine compassion soothing you like a soft balm. This is not merely comfort, this is a deep spiritual restoration that begins from within, a restoring of your inner stillness. Every tear you shed from guilt is being replaced with clarity. Every moment you blamed yourself is being rewritten with truth. Every echo of regret is losing its power. For God is showing you something you have struggled to accept: you were worthy of love even when you were hurting. You were deserving of care even when you were confused. You were never meant to punish yourself for simply being human. Tonight, release the self-blame. Let it fall away like old dust. Let it fade into silence. For God is holding you with a gentle, unwavering embrace, reminding you that your story is not defined by the past. It is defined by the divine love restoring you in this very moment. This is the night your heart finally stops blaming itself. My dear soul, we now enter a new phase of your journey, a quiet turning point where the weight does not vanish instantly, yet something subtle and sacred begins to shift inside you. This is the part where heaven gently guides your gaze away from the pain that has defined your days, and towards the divine unfolding that has been forming quietly behind the scenes. God does not rush you. He does not demand sudden transformation. Instead, He invites you into a tender shift of perspective, a soft awakening of truth that begins within the sanctuary of your spirit. He whispers, "My child, breathe slowly. For even now, I am restoring what life tried to break." You have spent much of your life bracing for impact, waiting for the next disappointment, expecting the next heartbreak, preparing for the next wave of trouble. And whilst that was a survival instinct, it has left you weary, exhausted, and unable to see the goodness that has been inching its way toward you. Tonight, God invites you to lay down that old expectation. Not by force, but by allowing your inner stillness to return, like a soft breeze finding its way back after a storm. There is a divine serenity approaching you, not loud, not dramatic, but gentle, tender, and unmistakably real. It arrives in the silence. It arrives in the spaces where you stop overthinking. It arrives in the moments you allow yourself to simply be. This is the beginning of the shift, the moment your spirit starts leaning toward healing instead of fear. God says, "You have looked at your life through the lens of pain for too long. Let me help you see through the lens of purpose." You see, even in your darkest nights, heaven was planting strength within you. Whilst you felt broken, resilience was being woven through your soul. Whilst you felt abandoned, divine guardians were surrounding you with protection. Whilst you felt you had nothing left, fortitude was taking root in the depth of your being. You thought you were falling apart, but God was preparing you for a higher unfolding. This shift is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is not about dismissing your wounds or forcing positivity. It is about recognizing that your pain was never the end of your story. It was a passage, a doorway, a refining. And now, a new chapter begins, one where restoration replaces despair, where clarity replaces confusion, where divine guidance replaces fear-driven decisions. Let your heart soften as you hear this. You are not failing, you are transforming. The heaviness you feel is not weakness, it is the weight of old layers falling away. The discomfort within you is not chaos, it is growth. The unfamiliar feelings rising within your chest are not warnings, they are signals that healing has begun. God whispers once more, "My child, trust the shift. Trust the gentle change. For you are stepping into a season where I will show you why I never let you go." Tonight, a sacred turning begins within you. The pain no longer defines you. The fear no longer controls you. The divine is redirecting your path, slowly, lovingly, purposefully, and your weary heart is finally beginning to feel the first breeze of freedom. My dear heart, as you move deeper into this gentle unfolding, God now guides you into a truth that feels both challenging and liberating. You have been holding on to things that were never meant to be carried forever. Old fears, old memories, old disappointments, old expectations that were shaped by pain, not purpose. They settled inside you slowly, quietly, in moments when you were simply trying to survive. And whilst they once protected you, they no longer serve the soul you are becoming. God speaks with a tenderness that reaches the places you rarely let anyone touch. My child, it is time to release what has been weighing down your spirit. You see, not everything you held was yours. Some of it belonged to people who hurt you. Some of it belonged to situations that collapsed under their own heaviness. Some of it belonged to seasons that served their purpose long ago. Yet you absorbed them. As if it was your responsibility to carry, fix, understand, or heal what was never yours to mend. And whilst you have shown extraordinary fortitude, this burden has quietly drained your serenity. It has clouded your clarity. It has left your soul feeling overwhelmed even on peaceful days. But tonight, a shift begins. A gentle releasing. A loosening of the knots that have lived beneath your ribs. God whispers, "Let it fall away, my beloved. For where I am taking you, heaviness cannot follow." This release does not come with force. It does not require dramatic moments. It happens softly, like the way dusk slowly becomes night, or the way a long-held breath quietly exhales. You begin to realize that you do not have to hold everything together. You do not have to solve every problem. You do not have to be everything for everyone. Your spirit is allowed to rest. It is allowed to be light. It is allowed to let go. There are stories you've replayed that no longer need your attention. There are questions you've asked that no longer need answers. There are attachments you've held onto that no longer align with the person you are unfolding into. And though part of you fears releasing them, because they feel familiar, another part of you, a deeper part, knows that letting go is the beginning of your restoration. God says, "Trust me with what you cannot carry. Trust me with what you cannot understand." Allow those words to bring solace to your weary soul. They remind you that releasing is not losing, it is healing. It is choosing inner stillness over chaos. It is choosing sanctuary over confusion. It is choosing the divine embrace over the clutter of old pain. As you release, something beautiful happens within your spirit. You make space. Space for clarity. Space for peace. Space for blessings that have been waiting patiently at the door of your life. Space for the new season heaven has prepared for you. You do not have to let go all at once. You only need to loosen your grip, bit by bit, breath by breath. For God is walking beside you, guiding your heart gently into freedom. Tonight, the weight begins to fall. Not because you forced it, but because your soul is finally ready to rise.